All right, welcome back to the channel. So, man, the boxing world keeps getting crazier. Mike Tyson says that he is going to return to the ring against, and this is the rumor, either Evander Holyfield or Lennox Lewis. And most importantly, it's going to be a real fight where he is going for the knockout. This is going to be an embarrassment to all of boxing. If a man 54, 55 years old can dominate the sport of boxing as far as revenue and fan interest. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Hey, I want to thank you guys so much for showing. Please, I would greatly appreciate if you would support us over on the Instagram page. Support us during our live stream with super chats, where we spend the money from the super chats and the channel and the money donated to this channel to promote fighters over on the Instagram. So make sure you guys follow me on the Instagram and tune into the live streams. Now, getting into this subject, Mike Tyson versus whoever he fights next is probably going to be the biggest fight in all of boxing. It is absolutely bananas that a man that old, right, who has not been in his prime since the late 1980s, can come in and have a exhibition fight that does on a new app that does like 1.5 million pay-per-view buys, right, against Roy Jones Jr., another guy that had not fought in several years. What does that say about the sport of boxing? It says to me two things. One is that, man, the system right now is not optimal, okay? Because there is no way, with the amount of real talent that we have in the world right now, which is no less than it was in the 1980s. Trust me, I was alive. There's no less talent now than there was in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. There's not that. But what there was then was a promoter named Don King and an environment where American heavyweights could be celebrated and would be openly sold to the public. Something that since there was a shift from people doing traditional promotions like Don King and guys like Tex Rickard way back in the in the early 1900s, right? Those type of guys, or the local promoters that were promoting fights in New York, in LA, in Detroit, in Chicago, right? Back when people would knock on people's doors and people would pay, would have these fights available on the radio or available on TV, right? Back in those days, now what we have is we have the networks, or now apps, right, paying for the whole fight and determining and making the determination as to who the best fighters are and what the best fights are, instead of letting those things, grow organically. So what we have is that we're just stuck in time, right? Mike Tyson is selling what you'd expect Mike Tyson to sell. Because if Mike Tyson was fighting Evander Holyfield today on pay-per-view, it would do 4, 5, 6 million pay-per-view buys, right? Because there's just so much more promotion and there's so many more avenues and ways for people to buy the fights, right? So that would be something that at the height of their careers would be huge. And now, several years later, right, or 25 years later, right, you're going to see if Mike Tyson decides to fight Evander Holyfield, you're going to see 3 million pay-per-view buys, right? Which would be half of what it would be, in my opinion, if it was, held in their prime today. Because there's going to be a decreased interest, but there's so much stock in the name of these guys that they can outsell pretty much all of the fighters that are currently fighting now. And even if you look at fighters that have been fighting recently, the only two people that could really the only person that can come close to those type of numbers would be Floyd Mayweather Jr. against somebody that is against good competition. So, I just have to say that, I missed the original fight, because honestly, I didn't really take Mike Tyson's Roy Jones Jr. exhibition very seriously. Didn't take it seriously at all, didn't watch it. But when I heard the reaction from casual fans and from hardcore fans about the entertainment value of it, And then I actually stopped and went back and watched the fight itself. And it's like, man, these guys are really slowed down a lot, but they're really showing skills. You know what I mean? They are really, this is a real technically a high level fight. Though athletically, these guys may not have be, or they are not what they once used to be. Definitely in the case of Roy Jones Jr. But you just see it, man. And it's like, just shows me on one hand that, what boxing really can be. Because if we are able to promote and really push for these really excellent young fighters that we have now, through the way that these guys, Snoop Dogg and Triller, are doing it, with mixing it in with entertainment, man, it could really become something that is gigantic and something that is really the centerpiece of the entertainment world again, right? Like it was when Jack Johnson was the man and Jack Dempsey was the man and Joe Louis was the man and Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, right? Where boxing, when you were the best heavyweight boxer, you were considered to be the best boxer, you were the best boxer, in all the sports. So, man, it's just a really wild situation. As to the fight itself, though, I think that this would actually be something I would enjoy to watch. Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield. I think that now what we're dealing with in that fight is something where we didn't necessarily have it before, and that's an even playing field, right? These guys have all been inactive, right? They're all older. They're not, they've had their lives. They've been training. It's not a situation where, where Evander Holyfield is in the prime of his career and has not had a break in his fights, but Mike Tyson is coming out of jail and having a couple tune-up fights and knockouts, and then they get in there, and Mike Tyson isn't the best Mike Tyson he could be, and Evander Holyfield is the best Holyfield he could be, and then they match up, right? Now you'll see, two guys that are, one, actually Mike Tyson, I do believe, is younger than Evander Holyfield, and you get to see the fights, you get to see the technical skill, and it's going to be slowed down a considerable amount, right? So, and I don't know about you, but for me, also please follow me on Instagram. Sometimes, like when I watch women's tennis, I enjoy women's tennis more than I enjoy men's tennis because the ball is moving just a little bit slower. The points wind up getting drug out a little bit longer. So you get to see them taking more angles and, and showing a wider variety of skills, of shots that they're taking because things have slowed down. So, and also, like, if you've ever played basketball, you'll see, they call it old man game, right? Where you're not outrunning people. You're just kind of doing it by, setting things up, right? So I would expect that if we see these two guys in the ring, that's what we'll see. We'll see a scenario where Mike Tyson is showing, a good amount of defensive skills, blocking, slipping shots from Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield's going to show a stiff jab, right? He's going to show, they're going to show the skills that they've had because despite the fact that their physicality has diminished, right? Their skill set in their minds are as sharp as ever, right? So they're going to be able to show just a very high level technical skill, right, in the ring, which first is something that I really do appreciate and something that is you don't see a lot in, at least I believe it, when they're promoting like this real rock'em sock'em robot type of stuff. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. I'm excited about the fight. I would take either one of them. I think a round robin would be great. And, again, man, with the money, it's going to wind up shaming a lot of people, man, because, the people that are paying for these fights are going to want to see these fights, and they're going to pay top dollar to see that fight, and those fighters are going to be rewarded for it. And Triller Television or the Triller app is going to be rewarded for it with Snoop Dogg. I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, you let me know what you think in the comment section. Please follow me on Instagram. Like the video, share the video, and with that, I'm out. Peace.